Okay, what is happening, Cucumber Squad, and welcome back to the Fable Sphere. Now, 1975, part of the band. I've never ever heard anything by 1975. I know nothing of their discography. We've never reacted to them. I've never ever listened to them. All I know is that they are a UK band, and that a whole bunch of people have been asking me to react to some of their discography. So we're starting with this one. I'm not entirely sure if this is a decent place to start or not. You guys will obviously let me know in the comment section. This is called Part of the Band, 1975, man. Let's see what we've got. Let's go.
She was part of the Air Force, I was part of the band. I always used to burst into a hand. And my imagination, I was living my best life, living my parents' way before the pain, penance, and verbal propellants. And my cancellation.
Okay. Right off the bat, firstly, I love the sound. I love the prevalence of the violin and the cellos. These string instruments are awesome. I mean, they're so, like, definitive. It's like they're in your face, but I like that. I like the fact that those strings are front and center. It's actually adding a really cool element to this. It's kind of adding like a bit of a storytelling element to it as well. Right? There's like a suspenseful aspect to that sound.
She was part of the Air Force, I was part of the band. I always used to burst into a hand. And my imagination.
So he's telling a story right now.
I was living my best life, living my parents' way before the pain, penance, and verbal propellants. And my cancellation.
See, the way he mentions over there, already it almost seems like he's just reminiscing. He's reminiscing of a better time. He's reminiscing of when he was a child, almost. I kind of feel like he's, when he says, my imagination. So it's almost like he's inside this like thought process, or kind of like a child, and how a child would think of things. A child always has these big, grand ideas of the world, and they're full of imagination that's so vivid and bright. And then he goes on to mentioning about like something verbal, and then my cancellation. Now, I don't know if something happened to him that maybe this young woke generation has decided to go after him for something, for some degree. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he's referencing something like that, specifically when he mentioned something about verbal, right? So I kind of feel like he's playing a picture over here, where he's nostalgic about his past times. I'm not sure. That's how I'm sort of feeling it right now.
And I fell in love with a boy, it was kind of lame. I was Rambo and he was Paul Verlaine.
Hey.
My imagination.
Again, playing back into the...
So many cringes and heroin binges. I was coming off the hinges, living on the fringes of
that whole little scheme over there. So many binges. I was coming off the hinges. So I was living on the fringes. I like that. That was really, really cool. I see again. I hear the kids running around the car, old car with chalk on it. Everything is about childhood. I almost feel like all of this is about childhood, and I like the fact that he's kept this in like a black and white type video, because it wants to take you back, right? any sort of video production that does that, where it kind of puts anything in black and white, is either telling you something that's depressing, so it's kind of storytelling to a certain degree, or it wants to take you back to a period in time that's past, essentially. So that's how I see it. But right now, I'm loving this so far.
Imagination. Oh yeah. Enough about me now. You gotta talk about the people, baby.
Hey.
But that's kind of the idea.
At home somewhere I don't like.
Enough about me now, you gotta talk about the people, baby. That's kind of the idea. That's kind of the notion today, where you're an artist. You need to speak on this. You have to have a say on this. And everyone that comes and tells you, it's like, you have to say what we have to. You've got to follow our activism, right? Jump on this train. You're not a good person unless you speaking about this. Come on, be virtuous like us. I kind of feel like that's where he went with that.
But that's kind of the idea.
And that's why
Home somewhere I don't like. Eating stuff off a motorbike. Coming to the light.
that was actually a very good scene over there, where he's sort of talking about the young generation of past that used to preoccupy themselves with really innocent things, right? Where they would go and like maybe chalk up a car, chalk up a wall. That's how it was in the past. But it's almost like now he brought it back to the generation of today, where the things that they want to sort of like scratch up and defame and tarnish are people. So this is kind of how we've moved. We've moved from, you know, trying to like scratch up and deface objects to now deface people because we don't like their views and opinions. I kind of feel like this is where he's going with this, where they're all like defacing on his back, like all stabbing him in the back, like it's kind of like a metaphor for it, or an analogy for it, where now it's like kids who are out there, you know, scribbling on him and trying to deface him right in the public eye. That's why I kind of feel that that's maybe. And also very clever. Just take a look. Sorry, I know I'm pausing a lot. I'm just trying to sort of. I'm really intrigued by this because over here. So if you actually take a think, and it's like a warrior type markings, right? So all of a sudden, kids have now become soldiers for all of these different activists and all these different groups. All of a sudden, they can't just be kids. They can't just be innocent. They now need to take this putty or this dough or this chalk mixed with water, and instead of doing something completely innocent, they need to become a warrior for something. They're being recruited to become warriors for different narratives and ideologies. I might be going over the top. I don't know, but this is how I'm perceiving it so far.
I can't get the language right. Just tell me what somebody like.
As he says over there, I can't get the language right. Just tell me, and I couldn't quite make out what else he said over there. Again, it's all about modern day society, right? And living in modern day society, and how he'd rather stick to his imagination and go back to when he was a child.
Just tell me what somebody like. Some vaccinista, toe bag chic baristas sitting east on the communist keisters.
I like the way he's playing on those words. Vaccinistas, baristas, right? Communista keisters. That's very cool, man.
Sitting east on the communist keisters, writing about their ejaculations. I like my men like I like my coffee, full of soy milk and so sweet it won't offend anybody. Wow,
I like my men like I like my coffee, right, with soy milk and sweet that it doesn't offend anybody, right? Because that's all people do today, is just take offense by absolutely everything. I love this over here where he's on this journey alone, he's on this journey in an open field. Love the fact that he's decided to do it in front of like the renewable energy age. All right, so you could see that there's the turbine fans over there in that kind of field, because it kind of shows like a modern age and where the world sort of wants to get to. But it's also an ideology of a sense that it's like, okay, yeah, we love the planet, but we also love poor people. But if you put them up against each other, who do you love more, the planet or poor people? Right? It kind of just plays into the hypocritical and contradictory notion of a modern day society, where it's like, yeah, in order to save the planet, poor people are going to die, and in order to save the poor people, the planet is going to die. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like they don't really know where they are. It's like they want to save the planet, but they love their Instagrams and they love their Bitcoins, which takes up the most energy in the world, right? Which contributes the most to carbon emissions. Right? They love all this fake crap, but they don't realize that fake tits aren't biodegradable. That kind of crap, I kind of feel like he's playing into that sort of notion. So he's kind of like on this new age road with a whole bunch of baggage, and no one really around him that maybe understands him. Right? That's my feel.
In the pages of the nation. Settings in a new park. Well, I take care of my kids, she said.
This is such a good song.
Worst inside of us begins the feeling on the internet. It's like someone attended it. Like advertising a cigarette. A diamond in the rough begins.
Taken down by his own burdens. I like the fact that he represents his burdens and he represents his struggles by the baggage on the back. That's, it's the most clear-cut representation in terms of a visual aspect of how much one carries on their shoulders. But I like the fact that he's put his art as part of his burdens as well. So if you look at the pieces of paper with his writing on it, right, that's obviously he's an artist, so he writes his music, he writes his lyrics on those pieces of paper, not something that he can leave behind. Right, his thoughts, his ideas, his entire mental thought process, was disseminated on paper, and then he carries that with him, good or bad. There might have been good ideas, there might have been bad ideas, but part of that also weighs him down. His artistry weighs him down. I like that. Very, very clever. This is very, very clever video here. The barren land adds something to this. Very clever to throw in a, sort of like the capitalist agenda over there to a certain degree. And not really, I wouldn't call it a capitalist agenda. I'd call it more the corporate greed agenda, where it's like they're happy for absolutely everything to go completely barren as long as they are able to profit from it, right? But not only are you dealing with that level of evil, you're also dealing with a society that also don't really know where they are grounded, essentially. They're grounded in all of these different activists, in these different activist movements, but don't really know which side to turn or which side to pull, because you can't save everything in the world. Unfortunately, that's just the way. That's the reality of the world. You can't sit there and save everything. You can't attach yourself to every single movement and think that you're going to save the world. Slapping shit on Instagram and slapping shit on social media and being a keyboard warrior doesn't really save the world. So what happens is that these people laugh all the way to the bank, because what's happening is you get to fight between each other. You get to have all of these race wars. You get to have all of these different wars amongst the population, while the capitalist corporate elites, or the elitists right at the top, are saying, while they're fighting a race war, we'll just we'll do what we do and we'll keep them distracted so that they don't fight a class war. A class war is probably what we should all be looking at the moment, but we're not. They've created these divisions, they've polarized society right up to the point where everyone is fighting about absolutely everything with each other, right? But not at the fact that the people who are doing the most damage to this world, to this planet, to poor people, and to society at large, right, are the ones right at the top actually pulling the strings and controlling all of this, right? So that is kind of what he's trying to, imbue over here. Very great little visual over there. Corporate elite, the powerful hegemonies of the world that are bathing in the very little that's left. Even though they've completely polluted and eroded and destroyed everything to the point that rare resources are no longer, commodities are no longer available and are completely rare. Even the very little that they have left, right? They will still even bathe in that. They will take that from you. Very, very clever. Kind of like, this whole song is basically, it's set in how the world is today with all of the greed and all of the tragedy and despair of what's happening in terms of polarization and people hating each other and the elites taking advantage of the people and how they failed the people, right? But the way he shows that is by taking you kind of back to a time that was simpler, right? A time where children weren't warriors, a time where children were just innocent and children didn't have to go and deface others just because they didn't agree with their opinions. And the reason this was all caused was because of people like this, the people that have failed you. These are the people that you should be turning your attentions to, but you don't. You're out there, right, trying to take down your neighbor while the guys that are running the show is pretty much ripping and pulling that carpet from beneath you without even you noticing.
Ironically woke up in my children. Am I just some postcode every skinny bloke? Calling his ego imagination.
Very clever, right? Using the people and using the young generation to mudsling at each other.
My children, am I just some postcode
That's what
every
they've
skinny
created.
bloke? Calling his ego imagination. I've not picked up that 1,400 days and 9 hours and 16 minutes, babe. It's kind of my daily iteration.
So I like that he's played into this over here, where this part over here, it kind of takes him back to when he was a child. So he's kind of showing you an image of darkness and light at the same time. So kids today mudslinging at each other, but it's mainly done on the internet and it's mainly done on digital platforms and things like that. But he's playing out that part in the past, essentially. So this part over here with kids throwing mud at each other on the beach and running after the dogs and things like that was they took something innocent and they redefined it and recreated it to be something evil and dark, right? This is how we were as kids. We didn't see the division. We didn't see the color, right? We didn't see all of these things that they're trying to pump into our heads. All we were just kids, right? We used to mudsling because it was fun to mudsling, right? And get each other dirty without any notions or narratives or ideologies. But now, right, we've set this whole setting means something different. That we actually mudslinging, right? But we're mudslinging to try and destroy each other, right? I like that he's played both parts of that in the same video scene. very clever, absolutely clever, almost a sleight of hand in videography and messaging over here. Super, super smart. We used to love the simple things. We used to love the simple things. We used to love each other's company. We used to love music. We used to love just being mischievous. We used to love just being with each other, regardless of color, regardless of race, regardless of whatever, right? It used to be innocent. We could agree to disagree, right? And we could still see each other for the positive aspects of each individual. Where now we can't even tolerate one another for having a difference of opinion. And that's why I kind of feel this song was kind of him saying, in my imagination, I wish I was back in my imagination at a simpler time where human beings could just be human beings without having to, be labeled and cast aside for our differences. Absolutely love it. So you guys let me know, did I take this too far? Maybe that's what I do. Did I maybe look into it too much? Who knows? I don't know. But that's kind of how I interpret it. And that's what music's about. Music's about your interpretation of how and how it speaks to you. And for me, this was insane. Absolutely insane. Loved it. Epic stuff. Love you all, man. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. I apologize for the long reaction. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.